Alright, so in this video we're checking out the Insta360 Go 3S, and this is an incremental update to the Go 3 that I reviewed a while back. I'll link that video in the video description. Here's what it looks like here. In fact, I did reviews on the Go 3, the predecessor to the Go 3S, and the Go 2, and the original Go from years ago. And with each subsequent release of the camera, they've added a little bit more features, upgraded the resolution, basically just minor improvements to the product with each iteration, and basically added a little bit more weight and made it a little bit bigger. So in order to get a little bit more features and basically better image quality, they've made it a little bit bigger and a little bit heavier, and now we're up to this here. It's about a little over 39 grams now, and the Go 3 original Go 3 was like 38, I think, a little bit under 38 grams. So gained a little bit of weight. Obviously, when you go back to the original Go 1, it was like 18 grams, very tiny. Internal battery here. I don't think this one works anymore. I think I crashed it too many times. And then I still have the original Go 2. This one still works. And so they've gone from the Go 1 with 1080p to the Go 2 at 2.7K. And then they have the same thing now with the Go 3, 2.7K. And now finally we have 4K 30 on the Go 3S. So one of the nice things about this sort of incremental update, which you typically don't find with Insta360 cameras, is when they make a new camera, none of the old accessories will work. It's basically, you basically have a whole new camera. But in this case, most of the stuff will still work. In fact, this action pod here is the same action pod. I have the black version here. They both these cameras come in black and white versions. So this is the black version of the 3S. As you know, the cameras do come out of here, and then you can use them standalone as a magnetic pack. And again, I'll refer you to those videos down in the video description. I'm not going to cover all of the features of this camera because most of them were covered in this video here in the 3. I'm just going to talk about the new stuff. But yeah, this camera will fit in the old action pod. Basically, it's the same action pod. So if you, for example, maybe have the Go 3 and you want to upgrade to this but don't want to get the whole system, which will cost you, I think, $399, which is the camera plus the action pod. Like, basically it's a bundle. You can pick up the 64 gigabyte version of the 3S for $239.99, and then you can just use your existing action pod and just pair it up with that, and then that will work just fine. If you want the 128 gigabyte version of the 3S, then I think it's $269.99. So it's a nice little, like, cheaper way to upgrade. If you have a perfectly working action pod, you can just get the camera standalone and then mate it up to the action pod, and you're good to go. So the 3S came with a little bit different set of accessories out of the box. If you get the bundle version, you'll get these accessories. So you get this little sticky pad here, and then the camera will magnetically mount to this here, and then you can put on a tripod or a selfie stick, or you can just use this little sticky pad. So this is a new accessory that's included. They have these GoPro style finger mounts here, and you can put the camera in here for either horizontal or vertical orientation. And the reason that they have two different ones here instead of just one, as you have before, I will explain that here in a second. Very important difference. But they do include those that wasn't included with the Go 3. And then they have, again, the hat clip, which is angle adjustable here. And they have the neck mount or the chest mount here is also magnetic. They made this magnet a lot stronger in this version, and they made the hat clip also magnetic. The one that came with the Go 3 is not magnetic on this side, only here. So obviously you can put the camera inside here like that, like before, and now this is magnetic to this, and you can, again, orient it either in this direction or in this direction, horizontal or vertical. And yeah, so if you're wondering if the Go 3 will fit this one, that does fit this one here. They do also have a few other new accessories, like this wind muff here. It's basically stuck on with adhesive that goes on the microphone in the front here. So I found that works really well, even with wind blowing directly on it. And overall, the audio, I think, has improved on the 3S over the 3. Works pretty well in all the situations I've used it in. So especially even like, for example, on drone flights, with this wind muff here, you don't get any of that crazy wind noise, and actually sounds pretty good. That's an add-on accessory. You'd have to buy that and then stick it on here. As you see, they will work with the Go 3 as well. Now, the thing that is different about the 3S that gives you the 4K resolution is the fact that they've switched out the sensor and the lens. So we no longer have the square, I guess, 1x1 sensor that we had on all of the previous versions of the Go. Now we have a more traditional 4x3 sensor. You're going to see in like pretty much like all the GoPros and other cameras, all the other action cameras. So that is why you have to have a vertical mount and a horizontal mount, because if you want vertical video, you actually have to mount the camera vertically to get that vertical video, whereas in the case of the Go 3, you can orient the camera whichever way you want, and you can change the position, whether you want horizontal or vertical, in post, because you basically have a square sensor. You can crop it in any way you feel like. You're a little bit more limited here with a 4x3 sensor, so the kind of footage you can get kind of depends what you want to do. But yeah, basically, if you know you want to get vertical video, you should get, put it into vertical mode, and that'll give you the optimal vertical video. And then same for this one here. Obviously, in most cases, you're probably going to be shooting in 16:9 aspect ratio, but even in 4x3, if you're using the free frame mode, which basically is the full sensor, it's still a little bit limiting in terms of like what you can get. Obviously, if you film it like this horizontally and you want vertical video, even though you've filmed it in 4:3 mode, you're still losing some resolution top and bottom because it's not that optimal. Now, with obviously the new lens and the new sensor being 4x3, the lens guards are different. So these are not compatible between the 3 and the 3S, and the ND filters. So if you have ND filters for the 3, they do not work on the 3S, and that's because of the new lens and the sensors. So something to keep in mind. I think that is the only major difference between the two cameras. Now, on their product page, they do have a sort of a breakdown, a comparison between the two cameras, because it can be a little bit confusing. So obviously with the Go 3, 2.7K 30, and now we have 4K 30 on the 3S. And faster 1080p 200 FPS for slow motion on the 3S versus only 1080p 120 FPS on the 3. And then you have a few other additional features here that you're not going to find on the 3, like easy switch, the new Mega View, field of view, internal video, gesture control, and the Apple Find My feature. Basically, the Apple Find My feature is you can pair it up with your iPhone, and then if you happen to lose it, it'll give you like sort of GPS directions as to where it is. And then the Mega Field of View is basically a software thing where it's optimizing it's giving basically the most field of view with the least amount of distortion. And I find that to be pretty good in the 3S. Not available in the 3. Not sure why. They certainly could do that, but this is pretty typical with Insta360. They will give you new features on the newer camera to get you to buy it, and they won't update the older camera. So that is kind of a bummer, but that's something they could easily do. But some of the field of views that you can get out of the Go 3 aren't necessarily my favorite. I really like the Mega Field of View on the Go 3S. I think it looks really optimal. You get the most field of view with the least amount of distortion. Now, something to note, the field of view specs on the website are for both these cameras. I think it's like 110 degrees field of view on the 3S and like 150 or 60 degrees field of view on the Go 3. Now, that is based on the full frame video. So because the 3 has the 1x1 sensor, it gives you a full frame that is square. So it's obviously going to have a larger field of view diagonally versus the 4x3 field of view on the 3S. Now, once you take into account, once you crop the image and basically undistort it so that it fits a certain aspect ratio, like most people are going to use 16:9. When you do that, the field of view difference isn't that large between the two cameras. So if you saw some other early reviews and you were like super concerned that the field of view is too small, I feel like it's pretty close. I'm just showing you here some examples just on my desk here, and they look pretty close to me. So, you can make your own decision as to whether or not that's a deal breaker for you, but in my opinion, I think that at the end of the day, the field of view difference isn't that big. And I think the only other difference here, everything else is the same, as the waterproof rating on the 3S is double. It's down to 10 meters now. That's basically camera only and no action pod. The action pod is still not waterproof, where it was 5 meters before, so a little bit better in terms of the waterproofing. Okay, so I do want to show you the interface here. This is, of course, the free frame mode here, and you can see the 4x3 aspect ratio of the sensor. And the interface works the same as before. You can swipe between your different modes by sliding across the screen. That is no different. Go into the video mode here. You can swipe over from the left and change your mode, or your basically auto to manual settings. The filters are basically the same as before, but they now have a new portrait filter here, and it's basically for, as you say here, natural and soft tones suitable for portraits or people. And you can see there's a little example of me here in this little clip showing what it looks like. Basically, the background's a lot more saturated. The skin tones, I'm not sure if that's really that accurate. To me, it seems a little bit oversaturated. It's close. I think I actually prefer the standard filters. So those are the same, like for example, as before, you would have standard and vivid and flat. And so those are the same, but this new portrait one is mainly for people that do a lot of vlogging, because this is, I think, as a sort of all-around camera, this is probably best suited for people that are just going to be using it for travel, casual video, vlogs, that kind of thing. This camera does a pretty good job of that for something kind of small and compact. You can just kind of carry it anywhere. And again, I want to show you here that the field of view here, the other ones are the same as before, the Action, Ultra, D-Warp, etc. But now we have this new Mega View field of view. They're saying it's suitable for wide shooting and urban scenes. Vertical distortion is reduced in 16:9 and 4:3 ratios. So they may have optimized it specifically for this camera and the 4:3 sensor, which is possibly why they don't have that on the Go 3, because that's a 1x1 sensor. Yeah, so for those of you that are interested in how useful this camera is for FPV drone footage, I'd say it's in line with the GoPros from like that era, where they were limited to 30 frames per second. So we're talking about things like the Session 5, the Hero 6, the Hero 7, and the Hero 8. I think that the video quality in this one's a little bit sharper than if you go back and look at the footage from that day, that era. Obviously, it's 2024 now, so it should be a little bit better in terms of sharpness. I think the lens this one is a little bit better than those in that era. But, and also it's a lot lighter too. So it's coming in at 39 grams. The Session 5 is like 72 grams. And, that's 4K 30. Also a 4x3 sensor. Does have limitations in terms of what you can get if you wanted to get super view on the Session 5. I think you were limited to 2.7K, and I think that was more of a processing issue. You don't have that limitation on the Go 3S. You can get the Mega View in the 16:9 at 4K 30. Now, obviously, it's a lot lighter than the Session. So if you were looking for, obviously a lot of people were looking for years for a Session replacement. I think now we have a viable candidate for that. You have your 4K 30 at 16:9 with very good stabilization. in camera with their flow state stabilization. Now, obviously, if you're looking for something that is 4K 60 or 4K 120, then you really have no choice but to go with something like the Action 2, which is going to be like 65 grams, I believe. So it's still heavier than the 39 grams of the Go 3. So again, if you're limited by weight and in terms of like the kind of craft you're trying to put this on, then the 3S is probably your go-to, even though it's still 39 grams. Still weighs a lot less than the Action 2. But again, you're limited to 4K 30. Now, just showing you some drone footage here of 4K 30. This is, I'll put the settings here up on the screen. I believe it's just basically the standard color profile. I think it did do a reduction on the EV because this camera is a little bit, the exposure values are a little bit high in this one out of the box. So if you find that your video is a little bit too overexposed, I would just reduce the EV down to like negative 0.7 seems to be optimal, even lower. Of course, the best thing to do is to get the ND filters and set your shutter speed manually. But in this case, I was not flying with the ND filters. I didn't have those at the time that I was recording this footage. But yeah, the ND filters would be the way to go, of course. But when using auto settings, you can just reduce your EV value, and the footage is pretty decent. Now, without any ND filters here, the footage does not have any motion blur. So I employed one of these new features that Insta360 has in their app. So you can do it in the app or in the Studio app on the desktop. You can add. Basically, it's called, it's like fake motion blur. I forget what they call it. They have a name for it. You can add that in post, and here's what it looks like. I think I may have over-applied it. You can kind of adjust how much motion blur you can put in there. I thought I put in sort of like a moderate amount, but it looks like a lot. I may have overdone it. You can let me know what your opinion is in terms of what it looked like before and after, but yeah, if you want to apply a sort of a fake motion blur that gives you the effect of an ND filter without having to buy the ND filters, this kind of works. But I don't know. For some of you pixel peepers out there probably aren't going to like it too much. It's okay, but it works in a pinch. But probably I would recommend getting the ND filters at the end of the day. Now, if you're planning on getting this camera for vlog usage, for maybe travel, vacation videos, that kind of thing, I would think this is probably one of the most optimal cameras for that. It's very small, lightweight, can kind of pack it away into your bag and not even think about it. And it captures relatively good video right out of the camera without having to really mess with anything. You can go, and then you can immediately post it to social media. I'll just give you a little vlog example here. I'm just hand holding the camera. You can hear what the audio sounds like and what the video quality sounds like with pretty much out of the box settings here. So why don't you just take a look at this and then you can let me know what you guys think in the comments. All right, so just doing a quick audio test and hand holding the camera here. I've got the wind screen on the camera, and it's in the pod, Action pod. So using all the microphones. There's a street over here. You can hear some cars. Let's see what the audio sounds like. There's some louder cars, but that one was particularly loud. So just get an idea what the audio sounds like. And then we have the sun coming from behind me here. Got a jet coming over there. I'll show you that. Sun's that way. I'm sure you can see that's probably really tiny, but give me an idea what the audio sounds like. A little real world test in an urban environment with cars, planes, etc. But I'm in a little, like a walking park area here. Yeah, so I think that's going to cover for this video on the Insta360 Go 3S. Obviously, we still don't have 4K 60, so that's a little bit of a bummer, but I think that's probably being deferred to the next Go camera, the Go 4, whenever that comes out, probably in about a year. And, that's probably going to be even a bigger camera and a little bit heavier. Of course, with more features, they make it a little bigger. They add more stuff to get you to buy it. So at the end of the day, if you're thinking about getting this camera for travel, vlogging, just general purpose use where you don't really want to spend a lot of time thinking about the footage and how to capture it. Just want to point and shoot and just get decent video, share it with your friends. I think this camera kind of checks all those boxes. Obviously, if you're looking for more professional quality video, higher frame rates, 60 FPS, 120 FPS, obviously this camera is not going to be for you. But for most casual users, this camera is going to do a good job, capture pretty good video, and just get the job done. So, if that's you, the link will be down in the video description if you guys want to check it out. That'll do it for this video. Again, leave your comments, questions, suggestions, all that good stuff down in the comment section below. Talk to you guys in the next video.